Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicolas Fortané. I'm a sociologist at INRAE, which is the French Research Institute for Food, Agriculture and Environment. And I'm the coordinator of the ROADMAP project, which means rethinking of antimicrobial decision systems in the management of animal production. And I'm very pleased to be here today at the Responsible Use of Antibiotics in Animal conference. So I'm going to briefly present you this project, which is a Horizon 2020 project funded by the European Commission. And it has started already 2 years ago in June 2019 and will last until May 2023. We are 17 partners and we are conducting research activities in 10 countries, including 2 low and middle income countries. So the main goal of ROADMAP is to encourage transitions toward prudent use of antimicrobials. And the project is broken down into 4 pillars. The first one being driven by social sciences and aims at understanding the drivers of antimicrobial use in a variety of contexts. So basically we focus and analyze the behaviors of various stakeholders and also the influence of regulatory system on antimicrobial use, but we also have a look at a more micro level on the knowledge, practices and motivations of animal health professionals. The second pillar, which is rather driven by participatory approaches, aims at co-developing strategies with the stakeholders to encourage prudent AMU. So here basically we focus both on technical tools and means of behavioral change, but also have a look on how we can develop socioeconomic and policy instruments that can foster those transitions. Then the third and fourth pillar are rather designed around the notion of assessment and impact. And basically here we want to, of course, evaluate all those strategies that we will develop, or we are currently developing within Pillar 2, but we will also co-build and co-design transition pathways and scenarios towards prudent antimicrobial use. And of course we have various activities in terms of communication and engagement with stakeholders. So globally I could say that this project carries approaches in terms of systems and transitions. And what does it mean? Basically it means that we do not only focus on individual or behavioral change, but we are also mainly focused on the structural component of change and transitions. And as a consequence to that, we also don't only look at technical innovation to replace or reduce antimicrobials, but we also try to have a deep understanding of multi-level transitions, which I'm going to explain a little bit further. Very briefly, you could see here basically the structure of the project and how the various pillars are interconnected, but I also would like to emphasize the fact that we are an interdisciplinary and, as I said, a multi-actor approach project. So basically we are a large community of both social scientists, which include sociologists, economists and specialists in management, but also animal and veterinary scientists. And as I said, since we are a participative project, we also rely quite a lot on stakeholders' expertise. What is important as well here is that this project is really organized around case studies, national case studies, which are directly feeding the various pillars and work packages of the project. So you could see the list of the countries that are involved, the list of sectors that we are focusing into, and how we have basically conceptualized the distinctions between various production systems, various contexts that we call intensive system, alternative systems, and marginal systems, because we strongly believe that there is no one-size-fits-all solution to reduce antimicrobial use or to foster prudent use of antimicrobials, and that it is very important to adapt and tailor basically solutions to a large variety of contexts, and that allows us as well to develop some kind of critical reflection about the porosity, entanglements, and interactions between those various agri-food systems. So I will explain a little bit with more details what we do in each pillars and work packages. So as I said, the first pillar is driven by socioeconomic analysis, with a first work package dedicated to understand the structural drivers of antimicrobial use, where we have various tasks, including assessing usage in every case study thanks to local monitoring systems, analyzing the impact of a regulatory system and public regulation, both at the national level but also the European legislation, including the new regulation on veterinary medicines. We also study the role of private standards and guidelines, such as antibiotic-free labels, stewardship programs, and we also have a task that is dedicated to what we call stakeholder mapping, so basically where we try to understand at a large level the role and influence of what we call the big players and try to describe their behaviors, power, and strategies regarding the use of antimicrobials. The second work package of this first pillar is rather driven by sociological approaches and looks into practices, knowledge, and motivations of animal health professionals. Basically, we have here as well various activities that includes quantitative and qualitative surveys, and here we were trying to understand but also to compare the working conditions and business models of farms and veterinary practices, the role of antibiotics in the farming and veterinary practices, and as well the influence of professional ethics and identity on perception and motivations for antimicrobial use change. The second pillar, as I said, is driven by participative approaches, and here we developed what we have called living labs, which are basically a participatory device where animal health professionals, stakeholders, public authorities, but also scientists gather to kind of co-construct strategies to foster prudent use of antimicrobials, and where we hope and we are really dedicated to try to empower those actors towards those objectives. And of course there are living labs in all the countries that are involved, but since it's really like some kind of bottom-up and participative approaches, each living lab ends up with kind of a specific topic that makes sense and is deemed as a priority for the local actors that make live basically this lab. The third pillar, which is rather dedicated to impact and transitions, as I said, aims at first to perform a global economic assessment of the policy measures, also to evaluate the living lab strategies, and to develop some kind of participative assessment of the impact of these strategies. And in the end, we will co-build with the stakeholders, with the animal health professional, transition scenarios that, as I said, are tailored to various contexts and production systems. And if you want to basically understand a little bit further how conceptually all the activities of this project are framed and organized using like these theories about multi-level transitions that are quite a lot developed now in the literature, I would say that our case studies basically try to analyze and understand rather the regulatory context and the sectorial context, while our living labs, which are really those bottom-up kind of approaches, are really here to empower actors at the local context. And so basically the overall basically of the project will allow us in the end to assess and understand and co-build those global transition and impact pathways. Finally, we also have, of course, a fourth pillar, which is dedicated to communication, dissemination, and, as I said, stakeholder engagement. And we have here various tools to basically drive those objectives. Yes, that's all for me now. I'd be happy to answer to your question, and we will be pleased if you want to have a look at the website of our project. Thank you very much.